A Pew Research poll released today reports 48% of Americans oppose U.S. military action against Syria, while 29% polled say they support military action. Here with some insight into the U.S. response to chemical weapon attacks in Syria are UC San Diego professor of Middle Eastern history Michael Provence and Sohaib Al-Agha, board member of the Syrian American Council in San Diego. Welcome.
Thank you.
Sohaib, you just returned from a council in Syria and Turkey with opposition Syrian leaders. What did they say about what's happening most recently?
Actually, there is real fear that the Assad regime will use even larger, massive chemical attack in Aleppo. He exceeded the 1,000 victim number in his latest chemical attack in Damascus, and there is genuine fear that he may exceed it substantially more in Aleppo if there is no international reaction to his chemical attack in Damascus. The Assad regime had always believed, and we believe he still believes, that all what he needs to crush the uprising is to kill enough Syrians into submission.
So their fear is this is going to escalate with the use of chemical weapons.
Whether the U.S. interfere or doesn't interfere, Assad will likely escalate. And I hope by U.S. taking responsibility and using its leadership to impose the international will on the use of the chemical weapon as a prohibited use, then Assad may be empowered to use it again.
Okay, we'll come back to that a little bit more in depth. But Michael, what is the history of chemical weapon use here in Syria?
Well, the chemical weapons have been used by the government a few times during the course of this uprising, not in the past. The Syrian government of Bashar al-Assad's father fought an insurgency in the 80s, in the 70s, and destroyed an entire city, but this was by air power and armor, not by chemical weapons. Of course, chemical weapons were used in Iraq by the Iraqis against their own population and especially against the Iranians during the 80-88 war, but at that time the American government was allied with Iraq, so kind of covered up at that time the chemical weapons use of the Iraqi government of Saddam Hussein. So this is the history of chemical weapons use in the region.
So there's about 300,000 Syrian Americans living here in the U.S. and I believe several thousand here in San Diego.
Correct.
Okay, is there a divide among Syrian Americans, and is there any support for the Assad regime?
There is few Syrian who still disillusioned and supports Assad regime, based on Assad propaganda that Assad is standing up to the U.S. interest and Israel. But majority of Syrians no longer believes the dictator. The dictator is only interested in maintaining his control over Syria. And the largest portion of the community would hope that the war can end in Syria, which had been lasted now 2.5 years, and the U.S. can use its influence to bring the war to an end.
Michael, what is the potential downside if the U.S. does go forward and does a military strike against Syria? What is the downside to that?
The downside is that there's a further escalation on the part of the Russians, the Iranians, and the Syrian government, and that the country of Syria becomes a proxy battlefield for a titanic battle between Russia, Iran, and the United States and the Gulf states on the other side, which of course is not in the interest of the Syrian public or the interests of anyone in the United States, with the possible exception of people who may profit from weapons or petroleum prices going through the roof or something like that.
I understand also, so the fear of escalation certainly is one major concern we've heard about, but I also heard there's a lot of concern that opposition forces in Syria is linked to al-Qaeda. That's from the U.S., concerns over that. Is there any connection there that you know of?
Syria is already a battlefield, and more than 100,000 Syrians had died because of the conflict. More than 7 million people have been displaced from their home. More than 2 million are refugees outside Syria, at least those are who accounted by UN. Syrian people have been abandoned by the international community, abandoned by the UN, abandoned by Western power, and left on their own. Mostly moderate Syrian people left on their own to either defend against Assad dictatorship supported by Russia and Iran, or against the vacuum which was created in Syria, which allow al-Qaeda type and extremists to have a platform inside Syria. So to answer your question, yes, there is element of al-Qaeda and extremists in Syria, and they've been employing and using the vacuum which been created by the international community. The Syrian people have been abandoned by the international community, and abandonment of moderate in Syria is not good for the interest of the U.S. in the long term and the short term.
We are just about out of time, but I want to ask you each this question in a sentence or two. Can you tell us, please, we'll start with you, Michael, what you would like to see the response be from the U.S.?
Well, the government should be collecting other countries, other powers to try to negotiate a settlement by pressuring the Russians and the Iranians directly to stop the escalation of the conflict by supporting their client, the Syrian government.
And so what would you like to see happen?
We've been pressuring Russia and Iran for 2.5 years and nothing come out from it.
And right now, what would you
Until
like to
now,
see?
the U.S. should exercise its responsibility and change the formula in Syria to tip the balance for the revolution and for the uprising.
All right. Thank you both for your insight.
Thank you.
Thank you.